Randy Bishop. Over to Bob Carr.
The question for the listeners was regulation and the lousy taxes in Michigan and so on. I never knew I was going to run for the state senate until I looked at a map and realized it's the only senate district in the whole state that represents both the UP and Lower Michigan, which puts me in the middle of everything. And that's what I like to be. In other words, everything they do is going to affect us right here. And everything I do can affect them. And so I operate a little differently. I think things are broken. Sure they are. So what is so tough about figuring out how to fix it? Go around and bellyache about it if you want. But today, CNBC said Texas is rated #1 in the nation as the best state in operations. All right. So what's so hard about going and finding out what they're doing? Florida doesn't have a certain kind of tax, so LeBron James probably went there to play basketball just for the tax. He saves $12 million. Well, if it works for them, how does it work for them? I think maybe it's time that we quit bellyaching and we go see who's #1 and who's #2 and get them to tell us what's working and then bring it back here and we polish the apple and make it even better. That's what I think. And so I'm not going to tell you that things aren't bad. Business. I have a business. You're right. You know, and teachers. If we hire somebody 29 hours, we don't have to give them anything. And so then the teacher who went out and got the master's doesn't get to work. There's all kinds of injustice out there. And there's a lot of inexperience out there. So I've been doing community development for the last 35 years. And I'm the problem solver, and I'm the 11th hour guy. I think I would go down and see all 37 other members and get to know them and actually maybe go see their districts and learn what are some of the neat things they're doing. By the way, if I show interest in them, and I really do have interest in them, I think they're going to give us some really good ideas. So don't try to invent it all yourself, politicians. Get some help. And by the way, the questions that are asked here are stimulating, make us think. We go out and do some homework, so when I get your question again, I can even be more specific. Thank you very much. I'm Bob Carr.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate that. We have a question from Bob Carr right now, as a matter of fact. Bob, I'm going to let you have the mic and hang on to that. This is directed to you. It says, what is more important, teaching children or to fix Michigan roads? We appear not to have the money to do both.
Trucker Randy. I have a stretch lowboy trailer to move railroad cars, propane tanks. It's 80 foot long when I open it up. So you don't necessarily have a corner on trucking. My wife is a school teacher. Teaching has changed. It used to be the slogan, people should stay home and take care of their kids and so on. I think I'd go crazy doing that. A lot of broken homes, as you know. I was in over 20 foster homes. Teachers nowadays need to have more education about the psychological working with parents. My wife has worked in the inner city of Appalachia, and let me tell you, we'd hold an open house, there'd be 60 kids in the after-school program, 5 parent families would come. Roads, they're broke. I was talking to American Waste, I think it was yesterday, and I said, you know, when I was in an academy, I went to boarding school where you could earn your way, and because I didn't want to live in foster homes, I had my own garbage truck, and we wash it every Friday, and your trucks are so clean. Guess what? If companies would wash their equipment once a week instead of asking for money from the government, they wouldn't have the salt on it, they'd last 3 times as long. And so there's a lot of efficiency we can do just by putting a new mindset about responsibility as ours. I think we can do both. Randy Bishop wants the mic, so I'll turn it over.
First of all, since you called out my name about being a truck driver and mentioned Texas, I don't have to go and research what's working in Texas. I already know. Number 1, no state income tax. Number 2, right to work. Number 3, part-time legislature. And number 4, they do what's best for Texas. They don't care about the rest of the country. Under the Michigan fair tax, we would start caring about us, the citizens and the residents of Michigan. We would get a prebate from the Michigan fair tax that would lower your state income tax. That sales tax that's in the Michigan fair tax, How many people spend $400 a week for their family on clothes and food? 300? 200? Okay, your net effective state income tax under the Michigan fair tax would be 1.6%, not the current 6% that we're paying. That's a fact. I've done my research. I know why Texas is #1. My opponent here said that he'd like to go and research and study what they do. I already know. The other thing that I'd like to say is the question about education is very simple. We need to do what's called forensic accounting. We need to go and look at and create what's called priority-based budgeting. You go to your state constitution and find out exactly what we are mandated to do under our state constitution. #1, fully fund our schools. It's in our constitution, we have to do it. That's #1. #2, we have to absolutely provide for public safety and prisons. It's in our state constitution, and also in our state constitution is we have to pave our roads. My fuel taxes that I paid $53,000 in 2007 in taxes for fuel was not spent in Michigan to pave our roads. We are currently paying for buses in Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids. That's not right.
Bob is asked to respond a quick 30 seconds on one point, and then we have to move on to the state representative 105th race in the interest of time. I apologize. I know there's a lot more questions to ask, but unfortunately we have to give a certain amount of time to each race. The state house race has 7 candidates that are, I believe, are all here tonight. And you'll all have a brief closing statement as well. And so, actually, Bob, as you respond to that, let me give you a chance to also do the closing statement at the same time, and then we'll let Randy, and then we'll move on.
My response is just this. There's a lot of people that know a lot more than I do. When you get in the Senate, you're from a different perspective than you are as a citizen. And so when you're there, you better use the Senate staff to just figure out what the Senate says in Texas. We know the basics, but we don't know it all. And, you know, talk about a fair tax. If you Google fair tax, you can probably find as many things that people say is wrong with it as right with it. So there isn't any of us here who wouldn't like a better tax system, a way to supply road money and supply teaching at the same time. I'm not going to say, well, one is good or another. What I do is economic development and historic preservation and make people dream. You know, I can be tough by being gentle. I can get people to do things by inspiring them, not by saying, fight against, and I'm going to fight against that. So I ran for the state Senate seat because we're in the driver's seat, because I understand that I can represent the UP and also Lower Michigan.